Hello students, how are you all? Hope you all are fine. So today we are going to begin with the next topic in grammar, verbs, classes, forms and tenses. As you all know children, verb means the action word. Now here we are going to learn first of all the classes. Now what do you mean by the classes? As a part of speech, verbs can be divided into three major classes or categories according to their functions within the verb phrase. The open class of lexical verbs, also called as full verbs, constitute the bulk of English verbs. This is called open class verbs because new words are added into this class quite frequently. For example, the word Google has been added into this category of late, and we often say, I will Google and find it out. Unlike this open class, we have a very small closed class of primary verbs and modal auxiliary verbs. These are called closed class because no new entries are possible in these categories, so we can always list them in full. So here they are trying to tell is that you have lexical verbs, you have primary verbs, you have modal auxiliaries. Now lexical verbs or the full verbs, they are only very comprehensive, where only comprehensive dictionaries list the full range of lexical verbs. Eat, run, see. These all come under the category of the lexical or full verbs. They have complete meaning in themselves. So they are known as full verbs. Secondly comes the primary verbs be, have, do. I have to go to shopping. I have to go to mall. Various verbs, these are known as primary verbs where we use be, have or do. Third one is modal auxiliaries. Can, may, shall, will, must, could, might, should, would. Then any verb, one verb, the final one is the main verb. And the one or more verbs that come before it are called auxiliaries. For example, leaving is the main verb in the following sentence. Might and be are auxiliaries. They might be leaving soon. So here in this example, what we find is they might be leaving soon. Might and be are auxiliaries. But one verb is there which is a main verb, that is leaving is a main verb. The meaning is understood and it is a main verb. Might and be are auxiliaries. Of three classes of verbs, full verbs can act only as main verbs. The difference they are telling is that the verbs, that is full verbs, acts as main verbs and the modal auxiliaries can act only as auxiliaries. In the lower classes, we had dealt with the auxiliaries, primary auxiliaries, modal auxiliaries, primary verbs, now modal auxiliaries, and the full verbs. The primary verbs can act either as a main verb or auxiliary verb. The difference is given here. So let's see. Now have form. Have, being a primary verb, can act both as a main verb and auxiliary verb. Have can, being a primary verb, can act both as main verb and auxiliary verb, which you have to keep in your mind. Have as a main verb. The main verb have can be used with many different meanings. Some very common uses of have as a main verb are given below. First example is showing the position. He has 2 cars. To talk about the family, I have 2 brothers. Please have one more helping. I would like to have a glass of water. I really had a tough time. I would like to have a glass of water. They have parties quite often. I have a severe cold. I am going to have a shower. So whenever the some physical position is being shown, or they are talking about the family relation, you're describing eating or drinking habits, you're describing experiences or events, you're describing the illness, or you're talking about the certain kind of action, we usually use have as a main verb. So given in this example, you're using have as a main verb. Now, when are you using have as an auxiliary or helping verb? As an auxiliary verb, have is the marker of perfect tense. Past tense had marks past perfect and present has or have marks present perfect. For example, she didn't phone Sam because she had lost his number. I have written to Nita so she knows everything about it. That means here have is used in the form of auxiliary or the helping verb, and when we use helping verb, when we are framing the sentence in the perfect tense form. Might be it is the past tense or might be it is a present. But we use auxiliary verbs when we are framing a sentence or when we are telling a sentence or when we are speaking in past perfect tense or present perfect tense. Now coming to the next, the forms. Now forms, the regular verbs. Regular verbs have 4 different forms. Regular verbs are called such because if we know their base form, we can predict their 3 other forms, that is the S form, the ing form and ed form. By rule, the vast majority of English verbs are regular. The verb forms have different functions in finite and non-finite verb phrases. The verb forms with their syntactic functions are given below. Usually the verbs are regular verbs, but when we categorize the verb into forms, there are 2 forms. One is the regular form of verbs and the second is the irregular form of the verbs. Now the regular form of the verbs, the base form, they are of how many types? They are of 5 types. The regular form of the verbs are of 5 types, and those are, the first one is the base form. Now what do you mean by the base form? The base form means what? The present tense in all the person and the number except third person singular, which form S. That means what? I. Now see, example given here is I or we or you, they call regularly. I call regularly, we call regularly, you call regularly, they call regularly. Now in this, the base form of the verb is finite because verb is what here? Call. Second is the imperative. Again we are talking about what? The base form only. When the base form is used in the present tense, how is the verb form? It is finite form. Now imperative sentence. They may call tonight. I want him to call. It is non-finite verb. Here we use non-finite verb in the imperative sentence, and in the present tense we use finite form of verb. Now the S form, the second rule says the S form is a finite verb in third person. He or she calls me every day. Here comes into the scenario, he and she calls me every day. Base form calls. Why he and she? Because it is what? Third person, singular. And the verb should agree with the subject. So he or she calls me every day. Now the third rule says that the ing, that is the present participle form. Ing is always known as the participle form, and it is a non-finite verb. Now she is calling him now, calling regularly. I am in constant touch with my friends. So ing form of participle, here the verb is used in the non-finite form. Now the fourth rule says that the past form is the finite form in the past tense. She called me yesterday. She called me yesterday. It is finite form. She called whom? She called me. When? She yesterday. So finite form of the verb this is. And the fifth rule says the ed participle is also the non-finite form of verb. For example, she has called twice in the morning, or he is called the Tansin of modern era. So according to these 5 rules, the base form, it has finite verb, whether it is in the present tense, and if it is the imperative sentence, then it has non-finite verb. The second rule says that the finite verb is in the third person, how it should be, and the third rule says the ing form, that is the participle form, will also have the non-finite verb. The past form will also have the finite verb, and then the past participle will have non-finite verb. These are all known as a regular form of the verbs. Now coming to the irregular verbs. The irregular verbs differ from the regular verbs in that either the past participle form or both of them are irregular. Unlike regular verbs, we just cannot infer the past and the past participle form from the base form. The S form and the ing forms are predictable for the regular and the irregular verbs alike. The table shows the pattern in which the base form, past form and the past participle form of the irregular verbs occur. Now the earlier we had studied about the regular verbs, where it is limited to the finite verb or the non-finite verb depending upon the 5 rules explained earlier. Now we are going to look ahead into the irregular verbs. Now irregular verbs, if you look at this table, all 3 forms alike. Now base form, past form and past participle form. These 3 are the given examples. Now in this, what they are trying to tell is that there are 5 cases in which all the 3 forms remain the same. For example, put, put, put. Now there are certain past form, that is the past participle form. Bring, brought, brought. Now past form where it is a base form. Beat, beat, beaten. Now past participle form is same as the base form. Come, came, come. All three forms different. Where, wore, worn. Now in most of the dictionaries, they give a list of the irregular verbs at the end. The students can refer here. Now here they are trying to tell you is that whenever there are the irregular verbs, okay, all the dictionary, they contain the group of the words, and you can refer them for your references. So here we'll see the another form of the verb, that is the tenses. Now what are tenses? Tenses, as explained earlier, the verbs have three main tenses. Tenses means a tempus. It is a Latin word. That means time, presenting time, present, past and future. They have further subdivisions, that is means subdivided into the simple tense, the continuous tense, the perfect tense, and the perfect continuous tenses. The continuous and the perfect tenses are formed with the help of the present and the past participle form of the verb. The continuous and the perfect tenses are formed with the help of the present and the past participle form of the verbs. And here one table is given for your reference. We'll go through this table. Now in this table, they have mentioned about the 12 forms of the tenses. 3 types of tenses: present, past and future. Again being subdivided into the simple, continuous, perfect and perfect continuous. Here they have given you how is the formation of the sentence. The form of sentence: subject plus verb in the tense. He writes a letter. Subject plus verb in present. Now if we take in the past, subject plus verb in past. He, subject, wrote verb a letter. Future, subject plus will or shall plus verb root, that is the base. He will write a letter. He, subject, will or shall, according to the subject, will write a letter. Then in continuous, how the form is: subject plus am or is or are. Am is used for the singular. Now he is writing a letter. If it is I, then it is I am. Now here he is writing a letter. Then if you look in the past, subject plus was or were, ing form. He was writing a letter. Future, subject plus will or shall plus be plus ing form. He will be writing a letter. In the future, we also add be. Now coming to the perfect tense, we had already learned the rule that the continuous and the perfect tenses are formed with the help of present and the past participles form. So the perfect tense will be what? Subject plus has or have plus past participle. He has written a letter. If it is past, then it is subject plus had plus past participle form. He had written a letter. If it is future, subject plus will or shall plus have plus past participle. That is, he will have written a letter. Now coming to the perfect continuous. How the form is? Subject plus has or have plus been plus ing form. He has been writing a letter. He is subject, has or have according to sentence. So he has been. Always in the continuous we'll write down being followed by the ing form of the verb, that is writing a letter. Coming to the past tense, subject plus had plus been plus ing form. He had been writing a letter. Why had? Because it is a past perfect continuous tense. So he had plus been plus writing a letter, that is ing form. Then coming to the future tense, subject plus will or shall plus have plus been plus ing form. He will have been writing a letter. So these are the 12 forms of the tenses. Now coming to your activity time. Now in this activity, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to fill the base form. Now here base form is given and somewhere the base form is not given. So first example, I had already solved begin, began, begun. So you're supposed to complete this activity. Now coming to the second question, state whether the verb have, has, had is used as a main verb or as an auxiliary verb. Now here you have to identify whether it is auxiliary verb is used or main verb is used. It has also been made into graphic novels and films. Here it is auxiliary form of the verb. The next example, when they had finished, they had 4 rooms. Now when they had finished, auxiliary verb and had 4 rooms. It is main verb. So like this you are supposed to solve this activity. Now coming to question number 3, you are supposed to spot the error and correct the sentence. Neeta have 2 sisters. Subject should agree with verb and Neeta is singular. So Neeta has 2 sisters. This is the correct sentence. And the rest you are supposed to do as an activity. Now question number 4. You have to fill in the blank with the correct tense of the verb. Preeti dash since 8 a.m. Now the bracket is given verb, work. You have to fill in with present perfect continuous tense. So Preeti has been working since 8 a.m. Rest you have to solve it as activity. Now question number 5. You have to pick out the finite verbs from the following sentence and write down their tenses. Now William, Elizabeth and her children had been travelling in a ship. So you are identifying. So it is a past perfect continuous tense. Why? Because it had been travelling. So like this you have to complete this activity. This activity is given, you have to complete it, you have to identify and write it. I hope you all have understood it very well. Thank you children. God bless you all.